I've seen a lot of heated discussions of whether you should use brush, sponge, your hands to apply foundation, and I'm a big supporter of hands. Let me explain you why. First of all, when I was younger, when I started out in the makeup industry, it was almost impossible to find a foundation and brush or brush for the eyes, because women usually applied it with those little brushes like sponges that came along in the box, so in the makeup palette, and that worked. That all worked. So there were no brushes, and people like makeup artists actually needed to buy brushes in art stores. So you have a ton of makeup artists like NARS, Bobbi Brown, who apply foundation with hands because they're convinced that because the hands melt the product, it sinks in the skin nicely. And that's especially true for the concealer, because concealer is of thick consistency, and while warming it up, it just sits on the skin nicely. It's easier to work with a concealer usually, if it's a cream concealer, with your hands. So I know that on one side you have people who love applying makeup with their hands, and then on the other you have everyone else who uses sponges, who uses everything, even the bra padding. Oh my god, I've seen such crazy things being used on the face on YouTube. And what I say to them, the ones who love using brushes and so on, there's nothing wrong. Obviously, sponges and brushes work really well. This is hard for me to say, work really well. But it works because the foundation, the thick foundation, when I was telling you about those coverage foundations, if you want to apply it in layers, it's easy to do it with a brush because you layer it over layer, and if you apply too much, then just do it like this with a sponge and you get that airbrushed look. But that goes for thick foundations, and as I'm not a fan of covering your face in a pile of makeup because that on mature skin doesn't look good, I prefer hands. Because I, up until now, haven't found one grown-up girl who would have a pile of makeup on her face and would look amazing. It looks amazing on a transformation. But then in real life, doesn't matter how airbrushed it is with the sponge. It for my opinion, looks terrible, especially when it starts caking up, go into creases. And that's why I strongly support hands, because with hands, you won't apply such a thick layer, and while applying a thin layer over the face, and when it dries, you'll be able to apply a second layer over, but you will still make a thinner layer than you would by applying it with a brush. You might thinner that layer with a sponge and even it out with a beauty blender, but then my second concern is hygiene. Because I know you're not cleaning those beauty blenders and disinfecting them, because it's pretty much impossible to do. I mean, when I use them, because I use a lot of brushes and sponges as a makeup artist, because I notice that people are not so happy if I use my hands on someone who I don't know or is maybe a bit more introverted, because I'm, a talkative, like extroverted person, and then touching their face, they might feel a bit uncomfortable. That's why I use brushes and sponges. I just throw beauty blenders in the washing machine. So I have 20 of them and I just wash them. So if you have them, I still prefer beauty blenders instead of brushes because they just make a thinner layer. It's evenly spread makeup, but then on the other hand, they're harder to control. So if I apply a makeup with a brush, then it leaves a bit of traces. I usually go like this with a brush over the face, or if it's on myself and you want the airbrushed look, hello, you know, just do this. But as you see here, for example, on my nose, because it's winter now, I'm recording with this side camera that you see what my skin actually looks like, and I'll be doing so in makeup tutorials as well, because with this front light, it's always everything's pretty much perfect, because I'm also on a distance, whereas here on a close angle, it's a different story. So you see here how, because I haven't maintained my skin properly, it's winter, you really need to put effort into it. You find these little flakes, you see, it's skin flaking, and doesn't matter if I use a brush, if I use a sponge, what foundation, if I use a thick foundation here, it will be only worse, because this won't sink in. So it's impossible, you know, to airbrush certain areas of the face that are, for example, too dry and so on. And because this is my argument against people saying, you know, but if you would do it with a beauty blender, everything would be nice. It's not. It all depends on the textures that you use and how you combine them together and what skin you have and so on. So this argument is done. Just you use your hands, or if you really want to cake up that makeup, I advise you to use beauty blenders. And as I said, just buy a lot of them and throw them in the washing machine. They're cheap, and they'll also become soft when you use them in the washing machine, so they will be nicer to use and you'll get even more of a airbrushed look. But other than that, when you're in a hurry in the morning, you do like this, bam, 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 bam. You know, here where I have these marks of my glasses, I would tap the foundation on like this. If I would want to cover it properly, I would, but it takes a lot of time. In order to make the skin perfect when it's delicate like mine and most of ours, it's actually a lot of work. But don't lose hope, because we're getting better and better at it.